live. Welcome to my video on the 2024 movie Prom Dates. So, yeah, once again, happy Pride Month. During this month we take a look at various movies exploring various aspects of experiences, had by the LGBTQ+, IA+ community. For the rest of the video, I will probably just say LGBT community. I'm not trying to exclude anyone. It just rolls off the tongue better, and while I am aware that there are, some of my fellow allies are comfortable and have gotten the okay for using the Q word, and I 100% understand the idea of a reclaimed slur, I'm not currently comfortable using it. But yeah, the movie is in part about prom, which is, of course, the kind of thing, when you're a teenager, that seems like the most important thing in the world. And you get older and you can still, you might not care that much about prom as in the past, but, you might still care a lot about your birthday. And, someone recently had a birthday, little Donnie. Wasn't his best birthday. I almost kind of hope it wasn't, because that would almost be even sadder. But, yeah, he spent the day looking very sour. And obviously, that does not make up for the harm he's caused the LGBT community. But I'd be lying if I claimed that it wasn't, like, I guess funny isn't the word, but karmic? Like, I don't know if he would have been happy if he had treated the LGBT community better, but if he treated everyone better, if he'd done his job well, yeah, I think he'd be happy. He'd be celebrated. There wouldn't be literal millions of Americans marching the streets, hating his guts for a good reason. So, yeah, I don't know what to tell you, Trumpy. Being a dictator doesn't make you popular. Makes some people pretend they like you. But, yeah, we're gonna move on. So this, I am probably going to draw some comparisons, because this is another raunchy teen comedy. And, yeah, I've covered others of the sort that are, yeah, let's see. Okay, not all of them have LGBTQ+ themes. But, let's see. I can imagine comparing it to certainly Plan B. And, let's see, maybe the, certainly I noticed as soon as I was done watching it, Disney Plus said, oh, you could also watch Crush. Did. Twice. Enjoyed it both times. I just realized, yeah, okay, yes. This video is going to start with a spoiler-free review, and then I'll get into the spoiler section, and I will warn before I get into it, so you can watch the first chunk of this video safe from spoilers. Yeah, the movie, I'm thinking rated R. My wrists are too bad to check right now. Certainly this video will be rated R, and if it's not rated R, I don't know what the fuck, because there's several, people say fuck in this movie, and there are other things that would also get it that age rating, so yeah. I largely love this movie. There's a couple of things, I will get into them. So the writing, this is a good time to say something that's bothered some people, and I appreciate it. I don't really blame them. It didn't bother me. Maybe it won't bother you. Maybe it will. The thing is, this is not really realistic. It's not trying to be that, and I felt that was a good choice. Like, it sets up right at the start. This is clearly heightened. I don't think I want to give away the first big joke of the movie, but, like, it's pretty clear, okay, this is not, like, trying to be, I mean, I think a case could be made that the first American Pie movie was trying to, a lot of the time at least, be like, well, this is just the average high school experience, right? This movie is more like this. It's like maybe how it feels, because when you're a teenager, certain things feel ridiculously, huge. And yeah, one of the first things is the two characters that we're gonna, the two protagonist characters in this are introduced really, really wanting their prom to be perfect. And yeah, that kind of sets up, this is about like teenagers thinking, this is the most important thing ever. And yeah, if you are on board with that, I think there's a significantly better chance you're going to like it. I'm not guaranteeing it. Than if you are not on board. If you are not on board with it, it's going to bother you every time it comes up, and it comes up a bunch. So just be aware. That was something I saw on... there weren't a huge amount of reviews of this, but that was definitely one. But yeah, they definitely try to fit in about as many like aspects of the teen high school prom centric experience that they can. It's not like it's not taking place over a huge amount of time, and it is hyper focused on prom as the characters are. So yeah, it is not. Yeah, I think I've made my point there. I think does that really cover the entire writing? While it is heightened, there definitely are aspects where you can very much see. Yeah, see, I don't know if I want to. It's not so much that the characters feel like real people 100%. It's more that it feels. It's like, okay, this is what it feels like in this sort of situation. Yeah. And that I think they do nail. And did I already say that? Anyway, moving on. There are a couple of times where it felt a little bit tropey, and once or twice where it feels like they've run out of material, which, like, later in the movie, clearly they hadn't. So it's, yeah, I don't know. It's possible that someone, like, went over the script and felt like something had to be touched up, so they added something, but it wasn't their best day. I think... yeah, I think that's what we'll do for that. So the direction has some, yeah, some very stylish moments, and it always it keeps a very tight focus. It's a very, like, I think it's like 81 minutes. It's yeah, yeah, throughout. I 100% followed. Okay, why is this character doing this? What is the goal here, and why? Why is this important to them, and stuff like that. So, let's see. Yeah, yeah, some really inspired moments in cinematography and editing. This uses some more like attention drawing transitions sometimes, which was fun. Yeah, like, I don't know. So maybe someone just watched Star Wars. It worked for the film. The production value is pretty decent. That is one area where, there's very little about Plan B that I found myself criticizing, but the production value is, and I do think, again, not looking it up because of my wrists, but the budget was probably bigger on this one. Or it's possible that it was about the same, but there was, one thing that was more expensive than it looked on Plan B or something. But yeah, this one definitely has, and yeah, I mean, there's there's at least one scene here that like almost took me back to something like, and you know, perhaps that's because it wasn't that long ago since I rewatched it, but you know, 10 Things I Hate About You, you know, with like a lot in the frame, and like it feels like, you know, you get like, because that's something you might remember from being a teenager, there's a lot of energy, you know, and you get a group of teenagers together. Yeah, we had a lot of energy. And yeah, a lot of teen-centric movies do not capture that. Yeah, these two, and really, yeah, Plan B and Crush definitely capture a lot of aspects of teenager. Yeah. Yeah, great set design everywhere. Feels like there are times where you see like the room belonging to a certain character, for example, and like you get like, okay, yeah, this is, I get what kind of person this is. Yeah, great costumes and makeup. Yeah, I don't have a lot to add about it, but it definitely does. Yeah, they did a great job on that, and it's very much, that's, you know, you can again get a sense of who someone is based on that. Yeah, the music is great. There's several needle drops that are very effective. Yeah, solid sound design. There's, you know, comedies need good sound design because a lot of gags are sold by how, you know, something sounds, and yeah. So the acting, I can definitely see some perceiving this as being overacted, and I don't know that I'd necessarily say they're wrong about it. But everyone's on the same page. No one's like off in a different movie, and that can be a major problem when you're doing comedy acting. Yeah, like certain performances here are more broad, but it's not that they're in a different movie. It's that that's that character, and you know, it makes sure to have some straight man characters. The characterization, they get a lot of personality to the various characters, and there's great chemistry with most of the characters who need to have strong chemistry do. And yeah, absolutely, like the characters don't necessarily feel like 100% like, okay, this is a real person, but they do feel, yeah, I think I'm repeating myself. I'm gonna move on. Let's see. Yeah, the pacing is quite good. It's a very, very tight. Like, I know I already said, oh, it's a short movie. Yeah, that doesn't have to mean that there are movies shorter than this that are not anywhere near this tight. There's a lot of straight-to-home media, action and sci-fi, and horror, maybe? I forget, but certainly action and sci-fi, where it's like, get a move on. What is going on? I think that might pretty much cover. Yeah, I would argue that the R-rated material doesn't really get gratuitous because there's always something like, I don't know, maybe one thing goes on for a little longer than it needed to, but by and large, it's not really an issue for the movie. Yeah, I think that's the entire. Yeah. Let's see. Overall, yeah, I would say it is, you know, a, yeah, 8 last minute missions out of 10, and we're gonna note the time. There we go. So there, we're getting into spoilers. So, very funny opening with them idolizing prom. And, you know, yeah, I mean, with how many young people do the blood oath thing, I'm sure every so often someone does cut at least a little bit too deep. And yeah, it really made me laugh when she accidentally gets a bunch of blood on the dress of that other woman. That's so fucked up. Yeah, lots of teenagers can relate to signing their name, or, you know, on something online as Dick Shart. And it was pretty funny when we see, no, these dresses do actually look amazing on some people, just not the two of them. Yeah, Luca, god damn. I really appreciate, like, I am on the record as saying we don't need that many, like, antagonist characters in movies for young people today because, like, most people will have something, you know, that you can find positive, you know, yeah. But some of these movies do need it, and yeah, I think it was the right choice. And I really appreciate they did not give him one single redeeming attribute, not for a fraction of a second. Like, fuck. And, like, his teeth and his line delivery just pitch perfect. Like, I can imagine the guy's probably super nice in real life. A lot of actors who play really fun jerks are. Let's see. Funny opening credits with the photos they took of themselves and each other and text written and such. And Luca thinks they should have sex right there in the parking lot at 11 a.m. We even see there's clearly people driving right past who would see them. And he gets really annoyed when she continues turning him down. And, like, he does that thing. So I'm a straight guy. If there's any other straight guy watching this who needs to hear it, please don't, like, if it's great that you want to respect her consent, but, like, don't say, you know, it's not like I'm trying to force myself on you or anything. Just, like, ask, or just, if she already said no, like, just accept the no. You know, you don't have, you saying that you don't want to force yourself on her, like, it's bare minimum. It's not that impressive. Just accept the no. And let's see, yeah, and, you know, suddenly they can't spend any time together. Not now, not that evening. The promposal is wonderfully cringe. And the bit with the condom, I hope this isn't going to annoy people, but I have no fucking clue if that guy's a teacher or a principal or whatever. So I'm going to call him, because I didn't catch his name, the teacher or principal or whatever. And yeah, the bit with the condom and him, you know, feels like one of those things. I saw fellow YouTuber, much more talented than I, fellow leftist YouTuber, Starterbox, put it perfectly recently. He was talking about the movie Bottoms, which I remember really loving the trailer for. I don't have any problem with, like, watching that at some point. I'm not sure I have access to it right now. Anyway, yeah, let's see, yeah. It doesn't feel like this is how the high school experience actually was, but this is how these high schoolers are describing it when they're telling other people about how horrible it was. Obviously, he's not actually going to put the condom on his face in real life, but yeah, American Sex Ed is horrific. It's a good, you know, parody of that. You know, if you're literally jonesing for a more realistic scene of that, Plan B. The 2021 movie. I guess I gotta specify because there's more than one Plan B. Somewhat ironically. And let's see. A lot of young women taking the yogurt in the cup. Let's see. Yeah, and the promposal has him use the nickname that maybe she doesn't completely hate, although it's possible. When he just uses it, it's just the two of them. But she does not want the entire school hearing Hannah Banana, and he's even strapped into a harness. I feel really bad for Hannah during her interaction with Angie, and that is definitely something that's happened to a lot of teenagers, coughing and even farting during interaction with someone they have a crush on, and she's just been having these dream visions of her. She wasn't expecting to actually talk to her just then, so she wasn't mentally prepared for that at all. And Angie is like, Jesus, are you okay? Which is not exactly the most attractive. Like, you want, you don't want your crush's pity. You want, them to think of you as, like, attractive, not pitiable. And yeah, clearly she would rather go with Angie, but she feels like she has to go with Greg because of heteronormativity. And this is, of course, something that a lot of LGBT teenagers can relate to, I'm told, by them as adults right here on YouTube. And, yeah, sleeping with a lock of her hair. Dateline vibes. Absolutely. And she has Team Bella in the locker, so I guess she was especially attracted to Kristen Stewart during watching Twilight, which, for one thing, might suggest that you probably like girls more than boys. I mean, I'm 3 movies into that, and, I like girls more than boys, so yeah, I'm, if I was still of an appropriate age to, she's, like, 18 in that first movie, so I'm not, but if I had watched it back when I was also around that age, yeah, I would probably have been especially into Bella, but, I can acknowledge, yeah, some very handsome men with handsome man faces, as if drawn by Julia Lepetit. But yeah, I've heard Kristen Stewart, a lot of young women realized they were sapphic because of her, I don't know if I'm going to say every single time, but if I'm saying yes, that I've heard that about lesbians, please assume I heard it from lesbians. I'm not, it would be pretty ridiculous of me to be going off or just guessing or something, but yeah, I've heard lesbians, bisexuals, pansexuals who are women right here on YouTube, talk about these things. Let's see. So, obviously I cannot talk about is it 100%, like, is the representation, is it the best? But certainly a lot of it is stuff I've heard. I'm sorry, I can't look up, but, hopefully there was at least input from, a lesbian or multiple. Let's see, yeah, when there was the thing about the one time that Jesse had sex, it was with someone Hannah never met, Johann, Jacob, and then he had to go back to Germany. I thought she hadn't had sex at all, but no, turns out it was with Jacob. Yeah, understandable, she's worried about how that's going to affect the relationship with Hannah. And they do a really good job illustrating the awkwardness of that first sexual encounter, the thing about bringing up the ages and the mother and stuff like that. You obviously don't want to be thinking about those things when in bed, but sometimes the brain goes to weird places, especially when you're nervous. And yeah, the funny text message. Yeah, understandable Hannah doesn't want to sit through that alone. And the thing with the gum, because, like, obviously she didn't mean to, she feels bad, but she's not going to be able to remove it without the other girl feeling that, and might actually turn into an even worse situation. Like, hypothetically, let's say she starts to, like, pull at it. The other girl might, like, scream and like, which I wouldn't blame her for. Someone pulling at your hair could be upsetting, but yeah, for my peace of mind, I really hope that off screen she told the girl right after the assembly was over so she could remove it or have help removing it, and just pretended that she spotted it when she sat down and didn't want to interrupt assembly because that might cause a scene, rather than admit it was her gum. And yeah, the thing with Jacob, it was really funny. He did not know about Luca, and the thing about his taste in music. And the line, "Get home safe," is like, I'm at my house. Yeah, but you could trip. And Hannah, not even knowing, she's standing in the way of the two of them because she has no idea. And the thing about, Jacob says something like, oh, I would, take Hannah out of the equation for this kind of food. And, Jess is like, yeah, me too. And Hannah looks at her like, what the fuck are you doing? That's just, yeah. Let's see. A lot of the jokes here are sold by these performances. And yeah, I gotta say, I felt like these characters really were, Jess and Hannah feel like BFFs that have known each other for years. Jacob feels like the brother, although apparently she's adopted or something. Anyway, of Hannah. Luca feels like he's been dating Jess. Greg feels like he's been dating Hannah. These various things. Let's see. Yeah, turns out Greg switched colleges to be with Hannah, and then at the end, so did the girl who really likes Greg. So that's nice. Anyway, I'll talk more about her. Probably near the end of the video. But yeah, he says now they'll be together forever, and she's like, she doesn't even want to be with him right now. And also the thing about, you're not proposing, are you? And he's like, what if I was? And she's like, you're not. And he does say he's taking a smaller step first, so he is thinking, oh, they're gonna get married down the line. Then we have the dog. This movie really likes its dark humor. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't make me laugh, and part of me wonders how many pets feel like that in the real world. But yeah, it really likes the kill button. Holy shit. And yeah, like Hannah points out, why would it even have that option? So I guess it actually sent Mommy out to the kitchen to get food so that it could plead Hannah to help take it or Greg's mom out of the equation. Turns out Luca was cheating. I really appreciate Janine, who we don't know, at least at this point in the movie, very much about. Yeah, we don't know. We never learn very much about her, but she gets a name, and we see she didn't know she was the other woman she didn't want to be. She apologizes and leaves immediately. And Luca tries to get her to come back so they can get some prosciutto. God, what a fucking douchebag. It just, yeah, he's like, yeah, no, I wasn't lying. Let's see, yeah, it was because of there was something about the prosciutto, that's why it was, yeah. Very understandable that Jess is upset about, leaves. He insists he didn't lie about the triple F thing, as if that means very much anymore now that he's cheating on her. And yeah, the fact that Janine makes it clear he was the one who texted Janine, not the other way around. And yeah, like literally, Jess said they could do it the very next night, and he can't wait that long. Like, some young straight men just really have absolutely no ability to delay gratification, even if it hurts women they claim to care about. But by the end of the movie, it's quite clear he does not care about her, and probably not any woman at all. Let's see. So, yeah. Yeah, the two BFFs, after Hannah points out her scar is deeper, and let's see, the revelation, Jess has known for a while that Hannah was lesbian, didn't want to force her out of the closet, and I am not the right person to comment on. I do want to note, I can imagine some people were not fans of the thing about, Jess compares that she didn't say she was black, like how Hannah didn't say she was lesbian until just like, I don't know. I'm not the right person to talk about it. I'll just acknowledge that was definitely something that was in this movie. Let's see. Then we have right, yeah. Then this is again something I've heard before. A number of sapphic women are really into Rachel Weisz. Let's see. And yeah, the two of them sit down, have to find new dates. Another name is dropped. Sarah Paulson. I'm not sure I've heard that one before. She is incredibly talented. As are, Weisz and Stewart. I just realized I forgot to note, so I'll say it here. Later in the movie, she is actually drunk enough to try to contact Sarah Paulson and like, wow, that is genuinely, yeah. Anyway, let's see. Then we have she feels confident Angie would say no. And let's see. Yeah, at this point I noted, I can't help but wonder if by the end of the movie she is going to prom with Angie or meets Angie there and they dance together or something. And yeah, or something. They do actually go over the various people they could ask to prom that they're in high school with, and the guy that Jess asks just got back together with the one he just broke up with, and she's like, "Oh, I just heard she was cheating on you." Wow. But yeah, they go to the college party instead before they're even let in by Vodka Heather. It's practically part of like you knock, the door is opened, and you take a shot before you're allowed in. And yeah, a lot of great stuff at the college parties. Yeah, the multiple failed attempts by Hannah at flirting, including someone who's a twink and takes it very well, and one girl who, I mean, so I obviously don't have, right, so if I understand correctly, gaydar is something gay people have. That's not something we straight people have, so, unless you build one, like Spoonie. Dr. Insano? It was one of his characters did. I just felt like there was a little bit of a vibe with one of the girls, but yeah, then a guy walks up, puts his arm around her, so nope. Vodka, they're talking to her, but also getting her to do drugs, and the line about everyone at a first-year college party is gay. It's quite the stereotype. I have no idea how true it is. Again, it's probably the movie exaggerating. Yeah, I appreciate the movie not letting it go further than it did with the second cousin of Hannah. Like, they kissed in a way that goes beyond what you should do with a family member, even a second cousin, but that was as far as it went. I guess if Hannah had managed to get her pants further down, hopefully, her second cousin would have gone, "What did I spy but our family crest on her thigh?" Tattooed on her thigh, there we go. And yeah, the line about this is why people have family reunions, very funny. And the thing about it, apparently one of their relatives died, and yeah, it's like, this is not a good time for this conversation. And yeah, Hannah is of course terrified that the cops are gonna drug test her, which they almost definitely would. The party is blasting Charlie 10C10. I want to briefly talk about that, because so obviously the joke is that he doesn't know that her name is Charlie XCX, not 10C10. But if, like, X, the Roman numeral, I guess it's possible he just watched, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and that's why he knows about X being 10, because in Roman numerals, C is 100. Cent, I think, like, yeah, 100 cents to $1. So, like, if he wanted to really go there, it should be 10, 100, 10. But yeah, I think it's funnier that he doesn't know, like, he not only does he not know that it's XCX, but he also doesn't know, I mean, if you're going with Roman numerals, then yeah. Right, and the line about Jess, she broke a minor law as a black woman, she's the cop's wet dream, sadly. Very true. There's a lot of black people who are punished way harder for something much less significant compared to their white peers who did something much worse. Quite a few black people have been shot even though they were innocent, and then on the other hand, you have white people, like, okay, so the following example also takes, there's also class, but it was the first thing that came to mind. There's white people who are also, quote-unquote low class, and I use that term descriptively, neutrally, not negatively. But yeah, remember the affluenza guy getting off scot-free when he literally got someone killed, drunk driving, and later drove drunk again. So yeah. Let's see, then we have so the thing with the Italian guy, I believe his name was Giancarlo. I think I'm going to be calling him that, at least. So yeah, basically he's a serial killer right out of one of those movies, complete with, like, cannibalism and everything. Do you think he goes to the same college that's featured in American Psycho 2? To be clear, I'm not saying that movie would have been better if it was a dude instead of Mila Kunis. I think she did what she could. That movie was just fatally flawed, you know, from right away. And no, I'm not talking about what it does with Patrick Bateman. I don't think that's the biggest. It's far from the biggest problem the movie has. But yeah, that movie is really, really bad. But yeah, because of the language barrier, she doesn't realize, although she says she suspected but thought it might be intense sexual chemistry, she was willing to find out. The thing about it, she knows at least some Italian because she watched the Lizzie McGuire movie a bunch of times. Yeah. Let's see. And yeah, they... let's see. Yeah, and yeah, the thing about, you know, he thinks she is understanding him. So when, yeah, he says, you know, he's looking for a sacrifice, and then she's like, let's go to my room, or let's go to a room. Yeah, because it's not her place, so, you know, let's go, yeah. Yeah, and his room is also like, wow. Yeah, very much serial killer vibe. Let's see, but yeah, you know, he thinks, oh, she's offering herself up. And I mean, there is, honestly, that is not that is something that I have indeed heard. Under certain circumstances, you know, someone might, instead of feeling sexual attraction towards someone they would normally, they will think in other terms. And certainly there are serial killers who don't rape their victim or have any kind of sexual contact with the victim. Let's see, I think... Yeah, so yeah, they get out of there, use the bouncy thing, the name of which escapes me at the moment. I honestly thought they would accidentally, like, land on the fence or fall in a really awkward way, but they do land in a pool, and, you know, these frat bros are so happy that there's girls at the party now. We see Jacob with Greg trying to comfort him, whilst Greg's mom just cares about Lucy. Greg drinks water almost as fast as much as I do, and I don't even cry as much. And let's see. Yeah, Jacob does genuinely seem like a nice guy, and like an actual nice guy, not one of those misogynists who say, oh, I'm such a nice guy. And we get the detail, Hannah is indeed Jewish. There had been little hints. You know, we find out she had a Twilight-themed bar mitzvah. Let's see. And that was also such a great, like, you know, who are you? And then she says her full name, and it's like, oh, that's just like my last name. Just, yeah. Let's see. Then, yeah. The two of them decide to stay at the frat bro party, despite, you know, Hannah pointing out frat bros are extremely rapey, and that is sadly very true. I appreciate the movie pointing that out, and we have, you know, some jokes about it that show just how little these guys care, and I really appreciate it, because that's, when you make jokes about rape, it's extremely important that it's clear that you're not laughing at rape survivors, because that's horrible. That's, you know, please never do that. But laughing at, like, yeah, laughing at someone who, you know, wants to go through with this, if the joke is handled correctly. And I'm not the best person to judge, but certainly it feels like they're at least trying to. Because it easily could have had. Like, there's a lot of movies similar to this. Mostly ones that came out, you know, decades ago. But, like, the 80s definitely had a bunch of rape jokes where we're supposed to think it's funny that rape occurred. We're supposed to laugh at the rape survivor. And no, that's not okay even when we hate the character that it's happening to. The Pop Culture Detective did a wonderful set of videos. I think he did more than one. Fuck, what were they called again? Something about male sexual assault played for laughs. I think at least one of the videos were called something like that. But, you know, go to his channel. He doesn't have a, you know, huge amount of videos. You can pretty quickly scroll through and skim and find the right one. And hey, while you're there, subscribe and watch, honestly, his entire output. All of it's great. Been a really big fan of his for some years now. Let's see. I think that does bring us to the part where I fill dead air with nonsense gobbledygook until I find the spot in my fucking notes that I got to. Jesus Christ, where did I leave it off? I guess as long as I'm saying something, it's not dead air. So there we go. Yeah. You know, there's even one of the frat bros is like, "Oh, I took that consent course for nothing." Just, yeah, I'm sorry, but fuck people like that. You know, I'm not laughing at the idea. You know, obviously, the joke isn't, oh, you know, you shouldn't take consent course. The joke is that this guy has so little respect for consent that he actually thinks that it's some horrible, you know, oh, woe is me. I had to learn that no means no. I had to learn to respect other people's boundaries, and now I don't even get to have sex because of it. You know, just, it's criticizing people like this, not the people who are, you know, yeah. And yeah, I mean, they specifically say the reason there's no other girls there is because every single sorority turned them down. And obviously part of that is, you know, setting the scene for, you know, oh, it's a, yeah, they make all the sororities on campus so uncomfortable that no one wants to, which of course is a dangerous situation for Hannah and Jess, but it's also saying, you know, it's important that women know they have the right to just turn down men that they don't feel comfortable around. And I'm not victim blaming. I'm not saying, oh, why didn't you? No. I'm just saying, when you're in the decision, when you can actually, you know, when you get a bad feeling about someone, you have a right to say no, to leave the situation if you genuinely feel unsafe. Now, let's see. I think that might... yeah, right. Jess brings up a bunch more stereotypes about lesbians. Not going to comment on them too much. I've heard at least some of them before. I will say it is somewhat sweet that Jess at least says, you know, rather than telling Hannah, you know, oh, just go by yourself, you know, she says, no, we can go to this other place and find you a lesbian. And it's too bad about Reggie. He really is this kind of pure, innocent type, you know, like, and that's also important to remember. Yeah, I mean, there are guys like that, you know, just... I hope that, you know, young guys will watch this movie and be like, oh, you can be a frat bro and not be a fucking asshole. You can be like Reggie. You know, I mean, we're also laughing somewhat at him, yes, but yeah, I mean, he... like, they could have pushed it so much further, you know. Yeah. I mean, after some beer pong, when he suggests they go up to his room, like, at first you're thinking, you know, yeah, he's not gonna go see the stripper because he feels confident that he can have sex with Jess. Apparently he wasn't thinking about that at all. He just wanted her help for an email to his mom, you know, like, not even like, I'm writing this really awesome troll email. I found this, you know, there's this thing on 4chan. No, he's like, I'm trying to write my mom, but you know, I can't really, the light from the screen, you know, and that's what he was looking for, his, like, sunglasses and tablet, not a condom. Let's see. And yeah, I 100% buy that the frat guys either refuse to help or he knows they would just laugh at him if he even asked or something. And meanwhile, Jess is on the bed trying to find the position she most wants to see her in. And, you know, comparing this whole thing to women in STEM. Just, yeah. I am very impressed that the smartphones still work after they were fully submerged. You know, they were clearly in their pocket. They take them out of their pockets right after. Like, I wish... because it's... the thing is, if they had just, like, peeked over the fence and been like, oh, there's a pool. We can't have our phones in the pool. and both of them like throw them so they're just over the pool and then jump in and pick them up right after. Yeah. Now, then the thing explained, if Reggie has one more concussion, he'll have to learn to read again. He struggled so much the first time. Not the biggest fan of when I look forward to when we can stop making jokes about, like, I mean, okay, so essentially what you're saying is he has a learning disability and we're supposed to laugh at that. I don't love that. I do appreciate, the thing about concussion. I mean, yeah, it is a horrifying truth. What are they called again? CTE? It's a huge problem. You can look at, there are a number of people who, after a number of concussions, they ended up suiciding. There are ones who became more violent and worse at controlling their temper. Like, how about we just stop doing it? Like, I'm not saying I want to coach sarcastiball. I'm just saying that's a false dichotomy. There's a lot of room in between. Let's see. Yeah, of course, because of the frat brother stomping, he is knocked out. And yeah, I was kind of relieved too when it turned out he wasn't fucking dead from that, because that's like, I mean, those things are made from metal, right? It's certainly the clonk sounded like, that was one of the places where I really appreciated the sound design of this. Let's see, and yeah, Jess screams for help. Hannah having her mind on the rape thing. Of course, she thinks that Jess is, about to be raped or something. So, yeah, of course she smacks it. She like smashes a bottle on his head or something. Which, yeah, if he wasn't completely gone before, he definitely is now. And he even said he'll take her to prom. He's like, oh yeah, that would be so cool. And just takes a selfie that looks like she's had sex with Reggie and asks Hannah for a landscape of that. I gotta say, my reaction was Hannah's verbatim. And Hannah, yeah. It's funny when, like, the guy tries to hit on her and she's like, oh, I'm gay. And he tries to follow up with, so you're into sports. Dude might as well have said, oh, I'm a lesbian too. Like, fuck me. And it's great because there's actually, I mean, it's not great that this shit happens, but again, we're laughing at him. We're not, we're not thinking, oh, those gays and this. We're thinking, why can't some people just accept? No, that's like a pretty clear, yeah. Let's see, yeah. One of the things I really like about the joke, there's actually a second or two where we think, oh, he's actually taking this well. He's actually taking no for an answer. Wow, but nope. He was just trying to think of something else to say to flirt with her. Just, yeah, that's goddamn. Let's see. And it's like, he's probably already very drunk, so he can't think of a follow-up line immediately. Yeah, she did not intend to be in the room that the stripper enters. She was just looking for an empty room, and the whole thing with the stripper, like, there's some really great stuff here. I want to start by briefly saying I really appreciate the movie doesn't feel the need to show us her bare breasts. Like, obviously, for lesbian Hannah, it's a big moment to be that close to, but we, the audience, don't need to see it. It's not there for titillation, and a lot of actresses, sadly, end up regretting doing nude scenes, even though, obviously, it doesn't make you less, it doesn't mean you're not still talented, but yeah, nobody should feel pressure to do them. And if your movie doesn't need it, yeah, I don't think you should put it in there for no good reason. And I mean, the movie, I would argue, is probably primarily for teen girls, not teen boys. Let's see. And let's see. Right. And obviously, some teen girls are into women, but a lot of the time in movies when, female nudity is filmed in, it's done in a way that's meant to appeal to men. Let's see. And let's see. Right, like, one can't help but think like Hannah. I mean, is Lexi, you know, sapphic? Like, or is she doing that thing that sex workers do a number of times, of course, understandably, and just act like they're into the person that they're in front of because, you know, job security and everything. But yeah, great moment with the music and the lighting change and everything. And let's see, I really loved when like a bunch of like an entire orchestra formed around them. Let's see, and yeah, I mean, she did ask her to prom, but Lexi can't hear because of the all the stomping, you know. And we also learn, you know, that was the only stripper place that hasn't blacklisted them yet, which makes them cheer. Like, I mean, that's maybe a time for reflection, but these are frat bros. And yeah, she ends up falling over, too much drinking. It's her first time doing cocaine. And it's, you know, there's actually a deleted scene where we see Vodka Heather get it from the sort of sketchy looking dude, but he does have a steady job selling coke. Big fan of this, you know, cover band that he's in. And yeah, you know, she gets back up after falling, and Lexi seems genuinely like, are you okay? I really appreciate, like, there's a bunch of characters in this movie that genuinely seem to care about if others are like doing okay. But yeah, and the yeah, she accidentally sneezes blood on to Lexi. This poor girl, sneezing, coughing, yeah. And understandably, Lexi's upset by having blood sneezed on her, so she vomits onto Hannah. Very understandable. And no less than 30 seconds later is Lexi taken over fully by the rage virus. I will say that when Hannah then vomits on one of the frat bros, that was one part, you know, I mentioned in the review, it felt like they're running out of material, like 2 vomit jokes from 2 different characters in, like, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds or something. That's feeling a little bit desperate. And Hannah realizes Greg has sent 1 million texts. Okay, that's an exaggeration. 250,000. And including one where he realizes they're not going to prom and he's not taking it well. Once the 2 BFFs are together again, they're having to deal with, you know, the missing keys. Hannah has to call Jacob to get a spare set. She also gave up the $100 that she got at, what was it, like pre-prom present something? PPP. And we see Greg is keeping Jacob from having any fun at the music place, and apparently he fell in love with her, with Hannah, and then had them paired up for self-defense. She hit him really hard. That's how he knew she was the one, because she carried him to the school nurse. I can totally see Hannah freaking out, apologizing the whole way there. And we get the bit at the, the phone call. You know, Jacob has to send Greg away. Obviously, if Greg realizes Hannah's on the line, he's going to insist they talk. And, you know, Jacob's being a good brother. He knows she doesn't want that right now. But Jess is so scared Jacob is going to tell Hannah about the sex, so she throws the phone away into the fountain. I guess now it's hurt by being underwater, even though it wasn't before. And the vomiting continues. I appreciate the realism of that, and I get, you know, there's this school of thought that says if a character vomits once, it's funny. If it's like 3 times, it's hilarious. Certainly, I appreciate them not going full Team America on it. That's one of the only things in that movie that just really can't stand. Always fast forward through that bit. But I do quite enjoy the interaction between the 2 BFFs and then the guy in Madison with 2 N's and a Y, but it's not what you think. I don't know if she got this role off of She-Hulk, but I feel like it's possible this was made after that. And yeah, she's incredibly funny in both. She's very different here, significantly more verbally aggressive, but she does have a really funny line about, you know, oh, my wish already came true. I wished for your face to get fucked up. And let's see. Shit, what was the other thing I wanted to say about that? Maybe there wasn't, or maybe I'll remember later. It was also great when both Hannah and Jess, like, again, jump. Right, yeah. You know, Hannah, again, jumps directly to homicide with it. I don't know, maybe she has some anger issues. I mean, she's very repressed, so, you know, she also almost texted an obviously ironic threat to Jess, and Jess says, "Don't you fucking dare interrupt my friend." Which is really funny because, like, half a second ago you were shouting at each other, you know, but, like, yeah, they're still BFFs. Let's see, and yeah, you know, obviously, you know, they have the conversation that always has to happen around this point in a movie like this. I'm very fond of movies like this, but yeah, like I said in the review, sometimes tropey. Let's see, but yeah, you know, they get into a huge argument. Both of them say they're doing the other person a bigger favor, and Jess does respond to Luca on the phone, and then she's sort of playing hard to get. You know, she does think maybe them going to prom together would be good. And we also have them all going to the music place, and Jess tells Jacob everything. He reveals he also knows Hannah's a lesbian, mentions jorts. Again, have heard that one before. Greg is able to get alcohol. I like that, you know, he's like, "I'm very surprised you didn't card me." Hannah isn't able to get any. And the bit with Luca, who insists he does want them to go to prom together. Also great, during the phone call, we see he did get prosciutto. He's just ate it by himself, you know. And apparently she posted the picture of her with Reggie, I guess to make him jealous, and it worked. And then he says he wouldn't go to prom with anyone but her, which, like, honestly is just the sweetest thing that he could say to her. If he hadn't just gotten caught fucking another girl, like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, I love how he genuinely seems to think he can just treat her like an asshole. I think he grew up on 80s romantic comedies or something, because, like, again, I have a real fondness for the genre, but I guess not again. This is the first time I've mentioned this video, I think, but yeah, that is something that sometimes bothers me. But yeah, you know, he's like, I just gotta say something sweet and she'll forgive me for everything. And yeah, too many of those movies do that. Let's see. I think... fuck, where did we get to the... let's see. Yeah, Hannah listens eagerly to Angie, who does perform really well. And then she comes over to the bar, as, of course, she needs something to drink after singing. And she immediately recognizes Hannah, who tries very funnily to hide behind her hair, I guess. Like, she puts down her... Like, Angie knows what you look like, including your hair. It hasn't changed since earlier in the day. Like, what the fuck? And... let's see... yeah, you know, she immediately... Right. Yeah, Angie's told everything by Hannah, and the you know, and yeah, clearly does care. And then she says the actual words, and this is not a direct quote, but it's close. "Would you like to change your shirt in my sister's room?" With a not at all subtle subtext. "How would you like to take off your shirt in front of me in a room with a bed?" And yeah, she spells it out right after they do go. I mean, obviously Hannah understood already, but still. And I really appreciate her asking for consent. And also the thing about, you know, Angie says she isn't perfect either, and after juggling briefly, she says, oh, she only does that for girls she wants to kiss. So, yeah, I have heard there are a number of lesbians who flirt this overtly. I love seeing members of minorities knowing that they deserve to be happy, actually going for it. And I'm not only talking about, like, romantic, but in general, you know. And I kind of figured that the sex would end up being disrupted, you know, coitus interruptus and all, but it was still kind of sweet while it lasted. And that I do appreciate seeing, because it's not gratuitous. It's showing both of them are really passionate about each other, and it also makes the later punchline of, you know, oh, I don't want to be your girlfriend, just hit much harder, because but we hooked up. Yeah, we hooked up once. That's all, you know. Just, and let's see, then there's also the fact that yeah, it leads to a punchline. It's technically a joke setup, you know. And yeah, Hannah finally comes out to Greg and points out to him running out of his house right after he says he wants to be with her forever is kind of a breakup. Okay, not gonna lie, it feels a little bit like a season finale of a soap opera. Once everyone converges at the music place, like, everyone disappoints everyone else and such. Like, most of it is effective. I don't think it would have been terrible if they trimmed down just a little bit of it. But yeah, Luca punching Jacob, who's just trying to get Luca to leave Jess alone since he won't take no for an answer. As per usual, Luca punches him, then walks away, says he would hit Hannah too, and Jess still chooses Luca. Just, yeah. And Jess and Hannah say some really harsh things to each other. I did like that Hannah ends up wearing the Piss Daddy shirt. And the next morning, Jess thinks Hannah came by to talk. Instead, it's just the dress. And Hannah is woken up by Greg, who starts out the scene his usual very creepy self. Even says he invited Melissa and she agreed, and he seems to just be rubbing in Hannah's face, but apparently it's so the two of them could, drive to prom. And, he does explain he's not upset at all that she's gay. And he also didn't tell his own mom, saying he's not a monster. I don't know if it's maybe a little too late to add this much depth and evoke this much sympathy for this character by now, after so much screen time devoted to him being weird. He's a weirdo. But the conversation where he says she shouldn't have pretended to be in love with him, that is something I've heard a number of non-straight people have to deal with. And I am absolutely not the right person to say if it is handled with sufficient sensitivity and empathy. I hope so. Let's see. I really appreciate how many characters are okay with her being gay. I guess Luke is really the only one, and he's just the fucking worst, so yeah. Luke is having fun. Jess really isn't. Luca confirms he did have sex with Janine, but he used a condom. And he suggests he finally introduced Jess to his parents, and he uses the S word when calling his mom over. Just like, fuck me. And it's like, okay, can he find his parents? And he just yells for her, like, Jess could have done that. Yeah, that doesn't really work, does it? I just like that style of joke. A little too much. And he also tells his mom that Jess is his... I don't think I want to repeat the word, but just, yeah. It's 2 words, Larry. And Jess goes to Hannah's, and they have the joke. We've seen it before, but it's still pretty good, of a person trying to really open up, and then turns out the other person isn't actually there or listening or that sort of thing. At first, I thought Jacob, we see him shut the window, and, we thought, he's upset. But he does open the door and come out, and let's see, yeah, she points out she needs to focus on herself first, but he will be the first she calls. And she's not saying you have to wait for me, just, yeah. And it's definitely true. If you're finding yourself letting your partner treat you badly, choosing your partner over friends who treat you better, you need some time to really get to a place where you love yourself. That's when you can love someone else. And a lot of people come to that realization as teenagers, It's for some people, it's some of the first times where you really, feel intense, for obvious reasons, scientifically proven. You feel very intense, positive feelings for others, and yeah, it's very important that you not, sadly there are some people, who will treat you badly if they realize that you like them more than they like you. And we have the Hannah finds Lucy, and the dog barks to confirm it wants to go home. I guess 4 hours of being homeless was enough for it to go back to mom. And that was something that surprised me. It really seemed to not want to be with Greg's mom anymore, but, let's see. I quite like just taking one of Luca's cars. We can tell it's his because it says rich boy. Fuck me. And while... Should there have been a longer pause there? I feel like my tone conveyed that I'm not actually asking a rich boy to fuck me. And while everyone's partying around her, Jess is just thinking about Hannah, even taking the picture of her classmates. Let's see. And I quite like Jacob loving that Jess stole Luca's car, and her immediately admitting and not even trying to make some excuse or something. And then the actual prom, Hannah apologizes to Greg in a musical number, comes out and expresses that she still wants to be friends with him and points out his love language is grand gestures. It's a really great... I didn't expect that when the movie, opened early in the movie when we saw the grand gesture he was doing. Let's see. But yeah, because Luca is a jerk. And yeah, he's in fact the only one. Like, everybody else applauds, and he's like, why are we applauding? And then he, uses the D-slur and just punches him. That was a great, he kind of deserves it. In real life, I'm against violence. I think violence should be an absolute last resort. Right, and we also in the scene see, the DJ is the teacher or principal or whatever. And, I mean, yeah, he's old and odd enough to the thing with, yeah, he expresses 9/11 trutherism, which, like, God fucking damn it. I really hope we get to a place where conspiracy theories are not so fucking mainstream. People who believe in them, I mean, they need help. Basically, they need someone who can help. Yeah. Anyway, he's old enough to think that anyone there will care. Like, I wonder, like, it's 2024, dude. None of the students there were alive during 9/11. I wonder how many of them even remember George Bush. So yeah, he's old enough to think that that's still something, and odd enough to believe in a conspiracy theory. Like, yeah, it was terrible. I especially hate how it led to all this, Islamophobia, including violence, and how it enabled them to convince a lot of people to go to war in the Middle East, kill significantly more civilians there than died on 9/11, and the fucking Patriot Act, and that was somewhat of an opening of the door to the dictatorship hell that we're experiencing right now. Let's see. Then we have the right. At one point during the end credits, Greg's promposal plays. The two BFFs make up, apologize for everything. Hannah tells Jess she had sex with Angie, and then goes and asks if they can date. Angie says no, but they can be friends, points out Hannah has a lot to learn on account of her saying, is it normal for lesbians to be friends with people they've hooked up with? I'm so sorry, Hannah. I feel very bad for you, but yeah, you have a lot to learn, but I'm sure Angie is going to be very patient teacher. So that's, yeah. Let's see. And turns out this other girl, I'm sorry, I didn't catch her name. There's so many fucking names. I struggled to learn this many names in this short amount of time. Is as in love with Greg as Greg was with Hannah. I feel bad for Melissa. We never see her face. We barely. I think we hear her voice maybe once. And I mean, I get the the joke is she's really tall. The thing about essentially every time it's filming in a way that underlines how tall she is. She's so tall she can't fit in her head won't fit in the frame kind of thing. But it's just like I worry that the person they got to play the character got paid less because we don't see her face, and the voice could be dubbed or something, and then that also means less pay. Yeah. I get that yeah. When it shows someone else's head, her head is higher up because she's so tall. And in Hannah's bedroom, it's like, oh, no matter how high up the camera gets, it just can't quite show her face, But yeah, I'm not saying there's no humor to be mined there. It's a little bit dehumanizing that we never see her face. She exists purely as someone that, Greg goes to prom with, and she's so tall her head sticks up the sunroof, and all these. I mean, individually these are hypothetically funny jokes. It's not wrong to have jokes about someone who's tall as such, but the fact that it's like the one thing with her, she's. I mean, I guess at least they mention, oh, she helped Greg dunk. Should we maybe have seen that? Would that maybe have helped? I think, yeah. And maybe if it's just a little more, like, if she had appeared a little more in the film, maybe, and there'd been just some, because it's a movie about, like, being, different doesn't make you bad. We have this stuff about, Jess' concerns because she's black, Hannah and her experiences because she's a lesbian. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. The girl is super into Greg, and I really appreciate Hannah and Jess being happy for him. Honestly, I'm happy for him too. It was just not right for him to be with Hannah. And in his defense, he didn't actually realize she was lesbian for almost the entire movie. Seems like he would have accepted that. I mean, he said that, if she needed, the cover, he could pretend to be her boyfriend. It was just the what's the word? The thing with pretending to be in love with him, that was what bothered him. Right. Yeah, one of the last lines said in the movie is, "You were the best banana," which is genuinely a very funny line. You got to go out on something, yeah. And yeah, it's funny. The relationship is kind of sweet. Let's see. I was a little surprised Chelsea Handler was barely in this. She's like, she's one of 3 cast members that I recognize from anything else. The others being teacher, principal, or whatever, and Madison from She-Hulk. It's possible that at least some of the other cast have been in other stuff, and I just haven't watched it. But certainly Chelsea Handler has name recognition still, and they give her so little screen time. I don't really have an opinion on her. I haven't seen her in enough. She was in at least one other movie that I... Wait, wasn't she? Fuck, I forget if I watched that movie or just saw clips or maybe a review or something. But I recognize her face and name, and I am aware that she is a comedian. Anyway, now I had a feeling the movie would end up like it did, but I do appreciate the film makes clear the best things in life are not about singular events and what exactly happens during them. It's who you spend time with, how you treat them. And yeah, by the end, they are at prom without a date. That was what they were worried about, Jess especially, but they're together, not romantically, but as far as friends go, and they do care more about each other than any, I mean, okay, obviously Hannah would love to be dating Angie. And yeah, it's not always about who you're dating. Friends sometimes last much longer in your life than partners. And that goes for all genders. And yeah, I mean, it makes clear, community is important. Greg, does, like, people, like, clearly at least some of Drama Club like him. If hypothetically, let's say that everyone hated his guts, they would obviously have sabotaged his promposal. Were there like 4 bananas dancing? I think, yeah, they would have sabotaged it in some way, made him look ridiculous in front of the school. Or I guess it's possible they felt like he can do that on his own.